I always thought my husband didn't love me, until after a car accident, when everything changed. That was when I suddenly heard his thoughts. Sob, sob, sob. Is my wife okay? I'm so worried. She can't even get out of bed now. She definitely needs my help. Finally, I don't have to sneak into her room every night just to hold her. I froze. What? So David had been sneaking into my room before? He sat beside me, his long fingers carefully peeling an apple, shaving off the skin in one thin spiral. The hospital room was so quiet that the sound of the blade against the fruit seemed loud. I watched his movements, completely mesmerized. We had been married for 6 months, but I still couldn't resist his face. Every time I looked at him, my heart skipped a beat. David and I had rushed into marriage after knowing each other for less than 6 months. I had only been his secretary. Everything happened because of an accident. That morning, after too much drinking, David said he would take responsibility. Such a cliché, dramatic plot had actually happened to me. But I thought I had gotten the better end of the deal. After all, David was rich, handsome, and easy to live with. His mother was liberal and never meddled in our marriage. Before the wedding, she came back briefly, tossed me an expensive bracelet as a gift, handed me a thick red envelope, and then disappeared again. She showed up once at the wedding, then flew abroad the very next day. She only returned 3 days ago. I had been happy, living a peaceful and comfortable married life. But now, with this strange new ability, I realized David's inner monologue was far richer than I'd ever imagined. Why does my wife keep staring at my hands? I'm so nervous. I absolutely cannot break the peel. I need to show her I'm a man with maxed out life skills, someone who can take care of her. I almost laughed. Who would have guessed that beneath David's cold exterior, he was so dramatic? Just because I looked at his hands, he came up with a whole speech in his mind. When he finished, David arranged the apple slices neatly on a plate, placed a fork inside, and handed it to me with such care that not a single detail could be criticized. Then he picked up his phone and began calling his assistant to arrange company affairs, even having work documents delivered to the hospital. If you're really busy, you can go to the office. It's fine, I told him. You don't need to waste time here with me. If the company would collapse just because I left, then what's the point of having middle management? He thought, serious as ever. I nodded in agreement and reached for the apple, but then his thoughts rushed in again. Sob, sob, sob. Does my wife not want me to take care of her? Why? I can do it really well. Does she think I'm inadequate? Hearing his secret sadness, I quickly explained, actually, I really hope you'll stay and take care of me. Really? David blinked, stunned for a moment, then smiled, unable to hide it. Yes. As your husband, taking care of you is my duty. Great. I knew my wife definitely loves me. How could she possibly think I'm inadequate? Every sentence he spoke was calm and measured, but his thoughts were like an open diary, raw, dramatic, and overflowing with emotions. When David said he would take care of me, he meant it. If I was thirsty, he poured water immediately. His eyes never left the IV drip, and he called the nurse the moment the medication needed changing. But then came the embarrassing problem. Nature called. With one leg immobilized, I didn't know what to do. David noticed my troubled expression and came over. What's wrong? Are you uncomfortable? I bit my lip, embarrassed. After all, since our marriage, we had barely shared intimacy. Do you need to use the bathroom? He guessed instantly. Before I could answer, he pulled back the covers, scooped me up effortlessly, and carried me to the bathroom. His ears turned red, but his eyes never left mine as he helped me settle onto the toilet. Maybe. You should go out first, I whispered. After a pause, he reluctantly stepped outside. When I was done, he carried me back with the same steady care. As I lay back on the bed, the phone rang. It was my mother-in-law, the woman who appeared and disappeared like a dragon. Sarah, I heard you were in a car accident. Are you feeling better now? Much better. Thank you, Mom. Good. I happen to be free today, so I'll come see you. Before I could reply, she was already instructing the housekeeper to prepare health supplements. A second voice chimed in, Auntie, are you going out? How about I come with you? Half an hour later, the hospital room door opened. My mother-in-law entered first, followed by several bodyguards carrying boxes of health tonics. These are bird's nest, gelatin, and other things good for replenishing your blood and energy, she explained, piling them high on the small table. Then she pressed a thick red envelope into my hands. Take this. Surviving disaster brings fortune. You must accept gifts to drive away bad luck. I thanked her politely, but my eyes drifted to the girl standing just behind her. She was young, pretty, with 2 dimples when she smiled, but her gaze clung to David from the moment she walked in. Oh, this is my best friend's daughter, Fifi, my mother-in-law introduced. Hi, sister-in-law. Just call me Fifi. She smiled sweetly, but her eyes flickered with scrutiny as they swept over me. You really need to rest well after this injury. By the way, where's the nurse taking care of you? Because David insisted on taking care of me himself. He's been working very hard, I answered. Inside, David's thoughts erupted with joy. Yay. My wife praised me. I'm not working hard. Everything I do for her is what I should do. Across the room, Fifi's smile faltered. She glanced around, then fixed her gaze on David's desk, where his unfinished work files lay scattered. But David is so busy every day, and he still has to take care of you? Isn't that too much? Don't you feel guilty, sister-in-law? I felt my face heat when Fifi asked that question. Guilty? Of course I had thought about it. David was the president of a major company. Every minute of his day was supposed to be worth a fortune. Yet here he was, feeding me apples and checking my IV drip like a private nurse. But before I could answer, his thoughts crashed into me again. Do not say you feel guilty. Please do not say it. I want her to know I do not mind. I want her to lean on me. I want her to trust me. If she says she feels guilty, it will stab my heart. I lowered my gaze, pretending to adjust the blanket over my lap. I do not feel guilty, I said softly. David is my husband. It is natural for him to take care of me. And he does it better than anyone else. David froze, then quickly hid the smile tugging at his lips. His thoughts burst out like fireworks. Yes. Yes. My wife said it. She trusts me. I will work even harder so she never regrets relying on me. Fifi's dimpled smile stiffened. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Well, that is sweet. But a man like David is used to being decisive in the boardroom, not in a hospital ward. He should not waste his energy like this. Fifi, my mother-in-law interrupted in a gentle but firm voice. Sarah is David's wife. Taking care of her is not a waste of energy. It is his responsibility. I glanced up, startled. My mother-in-law had barely been present in our lives, but her words carried weight. Fifi's eyes flickered, her smile plastered back on, though her cheeks were a shade paler. David's inner voice hummed with satisfaction. Mother is right. She finally said something useful. Good. Fifi can stop pretending now. My wife comes first. After they left, the hospital room was quiet again, except for the steady beeping of the monitor. David busied himself arranging the health supplements neatly on the counter. I watched him, struck by how different he seemed from the cold, distant man I thought I had married. On the surface, his words were measured, calm, almost indifferent. But inside, he was noisy, vulnerable, and almost childlike in his need to be recognized. And for the first time since the accident, I wondered if I had misunderstood him all along. The next morning, David insisted on helping me wash my face. He carefully wrung out a warm towel, his fingers trembling slightly as he dabbed at my cheeks. In his mind, his voice was full of panic. Am I pressing too hard? Too soft? Does she think I am clumsy? What if she feels uncomfortable? What if she hates this? I almost laughed, but I bit it back. Instead, I touched his wrist. You are doing fine. It feels nice. His eyes widened, and the tips of his ears turned red. Inside, he was shouting. Nice. She said it feels nice. Victory. Later that day, when the doctor came to check on my leg, David's thoughts turned serious. I must remember every word. I cannot miss anything. If she has pain, I need to tell them. If the recovery is slow, I will find the best specialist in the country. Money does not matter. Nothing matters except her getting better. The doctor reassured us that my leg would heal with time and rest. But David was still tense, taking notes on his phone as if preparing for a board meeting. I watched him, feeling a warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with the blankets. That afternoon, while David was on a call, the door opened again. This time, Fifi slipped in alone, carrying a small basket of fruit. She set it on the table with exaggerated care. Sister-in-law, I thought you might be tired of apples, so I brought some pears. They are good for recovery too. I thanked her politely, but she lingered, her eyes darting toward David, who was speaking in a low voice by the window. When she thought I was not looking, her expression softened, full of admiration and longing. Do not look at him like that, I wanted to snap. But I stayed silent. She finally spoke, her tone carefully casual. Sister-in-law, you and David must not know each other very well yet. You got married so quickly. Are you sure? You truly understand him? My chest tightened. I opened my mouth, but David's thoughts reached me before I could answer. What is she saying? Does she think my wife does not know me? Does she want to drive a wedge between us? Dream on. My wife is mine. Fifi tilted her head, dimples flashing again. David is a good man. But he needs someone who understands the way he works, the way he thinks. It is not easy to keep up with him. I smiled coldly. Then it is good that I can hear him, inside and out. Her smile faltered. What do you mean? Nothing, I said smoothly. Only that David and I have no trouble understanding each other. At that moment, David ended his call and turned to us. Fifi, why are you here? Her face lit up as she stepped closer. I was just checking on sister-in-law. I thought you might be busy, so I came to help. His eyes narrowed, and his thoughts stabbed out like knives. Help? She thinks she can replace me? Impossible. No one touches my wife except me. Thank you, David said aloud, his voice polite but distant. But I am taking care of Sarah. You do not need to trouble yourself. For the first time, I saw Fifi lose her composure. Her smile cracked and her eyes shone with barely concealed frustration. She muttered a few more polite words before excusing herself, her heels clicking sharply against the floor as she left. When the door closed, David sighed and came to my side. His inner voice was calmer now, almost tender. My wife must not be troubled. I will protect her from people like Fifi. She does not need to worry. I leaned back against the pillows, my heart pounding. This new ability was overwhelming, but it gave me a window into David's soul. And what I saw there was nothing like the cold, distant man I thought I had married. He was insecure, fiercely protective, deeply emotional, and, against all odds, he loved me. That night, as the city lights flickered outside the window, David sat by my bed reading reports. His head drooped once, then twice, before he finally fell asleep in the chair. I watched him, listening to the steady rhythm of his thoughts. My wife. Safe. Beautiful. Mine. And for the first time since the accident, I felt truly at peace. But I also knew this peace would not last. Because Fifi's gaze had not been that of a friendly visitor. It was the gaze of a rival. And rivals never give up easily. The next morning the ward smelled faintly of disinfectant and boiled pears. Someone from the kitchen had delivered a tray that was much too heavy for a patient, and David was arguing in a low voice with a nurse about sending half of it back. In his mind I heard the same fierce refrain I had come to recognize. My wife needs proper nutrition. Not too sweet. Not greasy. Balanced. If they do not understand the word balanced, I will write a chart. He did write a chart. He drew boxes and arrows on the back of a report and taped it inside the cabinet above the sink, a simple grid that said breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the words protein, fiber, fruit. He looked embarrassed after he taped it up, as if suddenly aware that presidents of companies do not label cabinets like anxious parents. His thoughts jittered. Too much. Will she think I am controlling? No, I am just worried. I can take it down. I pressed my palm to the paper before he could reach for it. I said thank you. He took a step back and that boyish flare of triumph leapt through his head again. She said thank you. Good. Keep it, Ben. Keep everything that helps. The days began to settle into a rhythm. I learned to tune the thoughts around me the way one learns to tune a radio. The hospital was a storm of static at first. A nurse worrying about rent. A security guard thinking about his lunch. A child in the next room counting to 100 to prove she was brave. At the center of the noise was David, steady as a metronome, all his sound beating in one direction. Protect Sarah. Take notes. Call the doctor. Call the assistant. Do not leave. Do not let her fall. She is mine to care for. On the third morning after my mother-in-law and Fifi visited, the doctor cleared me for discharge at the end of the week. The news should have made me giddy. It did. But it also tightened something inside me. The hospital felt like a safe bubble, and David filled every empty hour. At home there would be distance, rooms, schedules, visitors. I was not foolish. I knew Fifi would not give up. She did not. She returned at noon with a bouquet of lilies so large it looked like a small tree. She breezed in as if the room belonged to her and thanked the nurse by name, then set the flowers where the window light would make them glow. She wore pale blue and a pair of small earrings that flashed when she turned her head. Her smile was as soft as her voice. "Sister-in-law, you look much better today. I brought lilies because they symbolize recovery." In her mind, the words were not so gentle. "White looks good on me. Stand by the window. He will turn when the light hits. Not too close to the bed. She should look weak." I did not move. David ended a call and stood. His eyes softened when they found me first, and the spark in Fifi dimmed a fraction. She recovered quickly and handed him a folder. "Uncle David, Andy asked me to bring this proposal to you. There is a rehabilitation center near the lake. Private suites. Discreet staff. Excellent reputation. If sister-in-law moves there after discharge, she will recover twice as fast." She used the word uncle the way a sugar seller uses a free sample. In her head she thought, the rooms there are booked by families who owe favors. If he agrees, I can visit every day. Alone. He will be grateful. David opened the folder. His face remained expressionless, but his thoughts spoke clearly. I do not want her far from home. I promise to care for her. Home is safer. The lake road is narrow. No. He closed the folder. "Thank you," he said. "We have our own arrangements." Fifi did not blink. "Of course. I only thought of it because the center is owned by a board member's family. It would also be easier for work. The lake is closer to the office than your house." I heard another thought slip across the surface of her mind like an eel. Proximity matters. If the wife sleeps by the lake and he has meetings nearby, it is only practical for him to rest in the lounge. Practical becomes familiar. Familiar becomes natural. David set the folder on the table without looking at her. "I am not adjusting my marriage to make work easier," he said. "I am adjusting work." For a heartbeat the room went silent. Fifi regrouped and turned to me. "Sister-in-law, do you need anything special at home? Andy said she can order whatever you like. She also plans to host a lunch to celebrate your discharge. Family only. A small thing." Her mind added, "A small thing where I will show them I belong." "That is kind," I said. "But rest is better than a crowd." Before Fifi could answer, my mother-in-law called. David put the call on speaker. Her voice came through bright and decisive. "Sarah, I have booked the lunch already. Do not argue. It will chase away bad luck. We will keep it short. David, the board meets on Friday morning. I know you plan to ignore them. Do not ignore them completely. Let them see your face, and then leave if you must." In my mother-in-law's thoughts I heard something I had not expected. I owe this child a proper welcome. I left too many gaps. Close them now. Also watch that girl. Her mother is my friend, but a friend who pushes her daughter at my son is no friend at all. David agreed to show up for the first 15 minutes. After he hung up, he rubbed his temple and took a breath. His thoughts unfolded in tidy order. Schedule driver. Fewer stairs at home. Move the rug. Install a railing in the shower. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant, Tom. Tom arrived in the afternoon with a laptop and 2 stacks of contracts. He was younger than I remembered, with earnest eyes and sleeves rolled neatly to the forearm. His thoughts were a careful list until they hit Fifi, who had drifted back under the pretense of dropping off a charger. Then the list broke and sharp words flashed through his head. Why is she here again? She logged 3 visits in reception without an appointment. Should I tell the boss? Will I be accused of gossip? David noticed his hesitation. Speak, he said. Tom set his jaw. Sir, there is chatter in the lobby that Miss Fifi has been taking meetings with 2 minor shareholders, both of whom have seats on the philanthropy committee. They think you have neglected the charity gala next month. There is talk of inviting them to host it instead. In Tom's thoughts the rest of the message shivered. They also asked if you plan to attend with your wife. Miss Fifi suggested the company needs a first lady who can smile through 3 hours without sitting. Fifi's lashes fluttered. Her mind rehearsed a sentence. It is for the image of the company. I only want what is good for him. Do not blame me if his wife cannot stand for long. I felt anger rise, cold and clean. David's response was cooler. The philanthropy committee can host whatever they like. The company does not need a first lady. The company needs profit and integrity. Tom, schedule my attendance for 15 minutes at the start of Friday's board meeting. After that I am not available. Tell legal to review last quarter's charitable disbursements. If anyone made a promise on behalf of the company without a countersignature, I want to know. Tom's relief was bright as sunlight. Underneath it, a private thought slid toward me like a gift. Mom, please get well soon. He is less frightening when you are here. I smiled at him. Thank you, Tom, I said. The ward quieted after they left. Evening fell. Nurses changed shifts. David opened the window 2 inches and sat beside it, head tilted back, eyes closed. I studied the line of his jaw, the shadow where his hair fell over his forehead. If not for the accident, I would not be here listening to his unguarded heart. I would still be guessing at the cold surface and calling it truth. David, I said. Do you ever sleep at home these days? He did not open his eyes. The guest room, he said. I did not want to disturb you. I thought you needed space after we married. In his head he added, and I thought if I stayed close I would lose control and hold you like a fool and scare you away. Also, your room smelled like jasmine. I am not strong enough to sleep next to Jasmine without touching you. My face heated. I could not pretend I had not heard that last line. I looked down at my hands. They were thinner than before and still patched with fading bruises. I said quietly, when I get home, I will still need help to move around. Do not sleep in the guest room. I do not want to be alone. His breath hitched. The thought that followed was bright and simple. She asked me to stay. She asked me. He opened his eyes. All right, he said, as if he had not just been given everything he wanted. The next 2 days passed in a surprisingly soft blur. David learned to braid my hair because the nurse was busy and I could not lift my arms comfortably. The braid was crooked at first. It improved. He was proud of the improvement and tried to hide it. He bought a pair of flat shoes with straps that crisscrossed over the ankle. He looked strangely shy when he set the box on the bed, as if shoes were more intimate than a kiss. His thoughts were a quiet chant. She will not slip. She will not fall. Not on my watch. On the morning of discharge, rain curled at the windows. My mother-in-law arrived early to sign something at the billing counter. She wore no jewelry except a thin band and a watch. She kissed my forehead and called me daughter. In her thoughts she addressed someone else entirely. You see, old friend, this is how a family stands. Do not send your child after my son again. I will be polite one more time. Not twice. We did not see Fifi until the elevator doors slid open on the ground floor. She stood near the exit in another soft color, a coat draped over her arms. A photographer lingered beyond the glass, pretending to check his phone. Fifi turned at the sound of the elevator and raised her chin just a fraction. I did not have to read her mind to know what she wanted. A picture of David, handsome and stoic, carrying the fragile wife. A caption about corporate responsibility and sacrifice. A story frame where she, as a concerned family friend, is the one who calls the car, holds the door, lifts the coat. Her thoughts were smoother than cream. Be graceful. Be a background so perfect that you become the picture. Lift the coat when he turns. Smile at his shoulder, not his face. The camera will tell the rest. David saw the man with the phone. He did not hesitate. He turned his back to the glass and adjusted his grip so that my face was hidden in his shoulder. He walked straight to the private side exit that Tom had arranged and did not set me down until the car door was closed. His mind was a wall. No one uses my wife. Fifi followed. She was fast. The door opened again and rain hissed inside. She held the coat high like a shelter and leaned in too close. I caught the flicker right then, the image that spilled across her mind before she could stop it. A street at night. Headlights. A horn. The smug thought that followed made the bottom drop out of my stomach. If only the driver had not braked, I would not have to work this hard now. My hands went cold. The accident. She had been nearby. She had expected something else to happen that night. I saw the rest of the memory as if it were a film caught in the wheels of a projector. A hired car trailing mine. A text message sent to an unknown number. A corner where the light was bad. The flash of a license plate reflected in a shop window. She did not know the number fully. She remembered 3 digits. 074. And the feeling of fury when the car clipped my door instead of smashing into the frame as planned. I forced my breath to steady. David tucked me into the seat and climbed in after me. The driver pulled away. My mother-in-law took the car behind us. Fifi stood under the awning and watched us go, rain flattening her hair. She smiled at the photographer and said something light that I could not hear. The city blurred by. I gripped the strap on my new shoe until my knuckles hurt. I could tell David was aware of my silence. His thoughts reached for me like hands in the dark. Pain level. Call the doctor. Did the seatbelt press too hard? Tell me. Ask me. I will fix it. David, I said. Do you still have the dashcam footage from the accident? He blinked. Yes. The police pulled a copy. I have the backup. Can you ask Tom to send me the stills from the intersection camera too? The one near the bakery. There was a shop window there. The glass was reflective. He looked at me. Even without reading him, I knew what he was thinking. She is remembering more. Good. We will build a case. We will not let this go. Aloud he said only, I will have them by noon. When we reached home, the house smelled like lemon and wood polish. David had moved the furniture the night before. The edge of the rug was taped. The coffee table had been pushed back 3 inches to make room for the wheelchair. He carried me, and even though I insisted I could manage, he set me on the sofa and tucked a blanket around my legs with precise care. I touched his sleeve. I am fine, I said. In his head, a softer line than usual formed. My wife is home. For a moment his thoughts were quiet, a pool with no wind. My mother-in-law arrived with a thermos of soup and a look in her eyes that I could not quite read. We sat at the table and ate in companionable silence. I studied her face. In her thoughts there was a stern line I had not heard before. We will not be careless with this child again. She can read a room without speaking. She is my son's shield as much as he is hers. After lunch I asked to rest before the family lunch she insisted on hosting. David helped me to the bedroom. He watched me fall asleep from a chair across the room, laptop on his knees, one foot tapping soundless time. Twice I woke and saw him in the same position. The third time my phone buzzed. It was Tom. He sent a folder link with traffic camera stills and a short message. Found the window. Pulled frames from a minute before and after. There is a reflection on the glass. Might match a partial plate. David woke fully when I sat up. He brought the laptop and sat beside me so our shoulders touched. We clicked through the images together. Rain turned the street into an oil painting. Light pooled on puddles. In the window of the bakery a ghost street mirrored the real one. A car hovered in that ghost, its face thinned by the glass. The plate was smeared by rain, but 3 digits stood out. 074. A small sticker sat crooked on the bumper, the kind tow trucks sometimes leave after inspections. David called Tom again. His voice was quiet, his thoughts very sharp. Cross-check plates with those digits and the sticker. Start with the private hires in our district. Ask legal to prepare a request for the municipal database. Pull the report from the night of the accident and compare timestamps. Tom said yes. He did not ask why. In his mind I heard his steady thought. Someone tried to hurt Madam. That is my conclusion until proven otherwise. At 3 in the afternoon my mother-in-law's driver took us to her house for the lunch she refused to cancel. The afternoon sky cleared into something pale and thin. The garden looked washed. Friends of the family arrived one by one, murmuring sympathy and touching my arm as if I were made of spun sugar. Fifi was there already. She wore cream and a string of pearls that sat like a line of small moons on her throat. When she saw us, her smile was perfect. In her thoughts the places where she had been gnawing already were raw. The wife was still in the way. The board meeting was tomorrow. If he saw the old men before I spoke to them, I would lose my advantage. Move. Move now. We ate simple food at a long table under the eaves. My mother-in-law kept the conversation on safe topics. She asked me about the hospital food and whether I preferred congee or toast. She asked David about a small charity he supported in college, as if to remind the table that her son had done useful things long before he held titles. Fifi laughed at the correct places. In her head she staged small scenes where she stood at David's side to accept applause at the next gala. Halfway through the meal a man I did not recognize arrived late and bent to whisper in Fifi's ear. He smelled like cigarette smoke covered by mint. He kept his eyes on the floor. Fifi gave him a thin envelope under the table and dismissed him with a nod. The thought that slid out of her in that moment was a hiss. You had one job. A near miss is not a result. My spoon halted over my bowl. The sound of the garden softened, like someone turned down a dial. This was it. She had hired someone. Maybe not for the crash itself. Maybe only to follow and frighten. But intent was intent. I stared at the reflection on the back of the soup spoon and saw my own eyes widen. David noticed at once. His mind sharpened around me. Pain. Nausea. Temperature. What changed? I lowered the spoon and said quietly, "Can you check the front gate camera for visitors in the last 10 minutes? Someone you do not recognize came to speak to Miss Fifi." His eyes flicked to where the man had stood a moment before. The chair was empty now. David rose without a word and spoke to a guard. The guard vanished and returned with a device. My mother-in-law watched this without blinking, then turned back to her guests and told a pleasant story about a neighbor's cat who could open doors. Within minutes David had a still on his phone. The back of the man's head. The angle of his shoes. The brand of his jacket. On the sleeve, a frayed patch in the shape of a square. Tom texted a moment later. Found a private hire registered to a maintenance company with expired insurance. Plate partial matches 074. The same company service cameras in 3 shops near your accident corner. The manager is a woman related to Miss Fifi's family friend. I have names. My heart kicked once, hard enough that I had to hold the edge of the table. Fifi reached then, quick as a fox, and touched the back of my hand. Sister-in-law, do you feel unwell? You look pale. Perhaps all this is too much. In her head the thought was not concern. Do not faint now. Not before they see you as fragile. Wait until he leaves for the board. Then fall apart. I pulled my hand back. I am fine, I said. David returned to his chair and placed his phone face down. His inner voice was iron. Protect now. Verify tonight. Strike tomorrow. The lunch ended early by my request. Guests kissed my cheek and made gentle noises and promised to send soup. When the last car rolled away, my mother-in-law dismissed the staff and sat with us at the empty table. She folded her hands and looked at me first, and then at David. I will say one thing plainly, she said. My friend has a daughter who has visited my house too often. I will fix that. You do what you have to do about the rest. Do not worry about noise. I will handle the noise. In her mind was a steel I had not guessed. I let my son grow tall far away from me and told myself it was freedom. It was also neglect. Enough. We drove home in a hush that was not uncomfortable. At a red light, a scooter cut too close and skidded. David braked smoothly. His thoughts did not spike. He had become a still lake again, only a long shape moving just beneath the surface. When we reached the house he helped me to the bedroom and closed the curtains against the late sun. He set the laptop on the bed and opened the folder Tom had updated. There it was. The private hire. The partial plate. The route log that showed 3 passes by the corner where my car had been. The name of the maintenance company. The familial link to Fifi's mother's cousin. It was not yet proof. It was a net drawing tight. I took a breath and heard my own heartbeat like a drum. The power that had felt like a burden in the hospital now felt like a light over dark water. I could trace the slick path of intent through a smile and a bouquet and a soft coat held against the rain. I could see where it had begun to fray. Someone knocked. Not the front door. The inner door that led to the small balcony off our room. David stood at once and crossed the room. He pushed the curtain aside and looked through the glass. For a second he did not move at all. Then he unlocked the latch and opened the door a hand's width. A man stood on the balcony in the long blue of the evening, cap pulled low. He kept his hands where David could see them. I recognized his face from a blurry still. The driver of the private hire, older than I expected, with tired eyes and a mouth set in a line that had forgotten how to lift. He spoke before either of us could. Sir, he said. Mom. I'm sorry to come like this. My name is Chen. I need to tell you something about the night of the accident. In his thoughts the words tumbled over one another. Enough. I cannot sleep. They did not pay the balance. They told me to frighten, not to kill. I braked. He took off his cap and twisted it in his hands. David did not raise his voice. Come inside, he said. Slowly. I looked at the man and felt the chapter of our lives turn a page. The rain smell had faded. The house was very quiet. David stood between me and the door, his mind a shield. I folded my hands in my lap and told my heartbeat to slow. "Tell us," I said. And the man took a breath to begin. The man's voice trembled as he sat down on the very edge of the chair David pointed to. He kept wringing his cap as if it could somehow wring the guilt out of his chest. His eyes, weary and red, never lifted to mine at first. His thoughts, however, were loud and raw, almost spilling out without order. I did not want to hit her. I was only told to frighten her. They said I would be paid double if she panicked and called someone for help. They said the husband was too proud to stay if he thought she was weak. They lied. They still owe me money. I cannot keep this secret. I drew in a slow breath and kept my voice even. "Chen, tell us everything. Who hired you? Who gave the instructions?" David stood behind me, silent but alert, his mind like a blade in its sheath. He did not need to speak, his thoughts surged steady and sharp. If this man lies, I will know. If he speaks truth, I will record. Protect her first. And this second. Chen rubbed his face with both hands. It was a woman. Young, pretty. She called me through a contact at a maintenance company. Said she wanted me to follow a certain car, flash my lights, make the driver nervous, maybe clip the side mirror if the chance came. She gave me an envelope with half the money up front. When the job was done, she was supposed to pay the rest. She never did. He finally looked up, and in that moment I knew. His memory of her face was clear. Fifi. Dimples, neat hair, polite tone. In his thoughts the name shaped itself like smoke. Fifi. Fifi. The same name that had haunted the corners of my hospital room. My stomach clenched. Even though I had expected it, hearing confirmation made the reality heavier. David's jaw hardened. He did not speak, but his inner voice surged, iron hot. She dared. In my house. In front of my wife. She dared. Chen hurried on. I swear I braked. I only hit the door. I never meant harm. But then I waited. No second payment came. Instead I heard rumors. That the madam was injured worse than expected. That someone had said a miracle did not happen. I cannot live with it. David asked in his calmest boardroom tone, "Do you still have the envelope?" Chen nodded quickly. Yes. With fingerprints maybe. She wore gloves but she touched one corner with bare skin when she counted. I was too nervous to throw it away. In his head the thought was bitter. I was too greedy. If I had destroyed it, I could forget. But I cannot forget. Not with her face. Not with her smile. David's hand came to rest lightly on the back of my chair. In his mind he spoke as if to himself. Evidence. Strong enough. Police. But media first. Damage control. Protect Sarah. Do not expose too fast. Leave the envelope with us, David said. You will make a statement later. For now, you stay quiet. We will arrange protection if needed. No one will harm you. Chen sagged in relief. He left quickly, glancing around the room as if shadows were listening. When the door closed, silence settled over us like a heavy quilt. I could feel David's restraint vibrating in the air. His heart was pounding through his thoughts, full of rage and icy calculation. I whispered, it was her. From the start. He crouched in front of me, his hands clasping mine. His face was calm, but his thoughts were ablaze. I should never have let her near you. I should have seen it. I promised myself you would never be hurt. I will make sure she never comes near again. I touched his cheek. David, we will handle it together. I am not fragile. He closed his eyes for a moment. In his mind, his voice was quiet. Fragile or not, you are everything. My wife. My heart. He kissed my hand and stood. Rest. I will take care of it. But I did not rest. I lay awake, my mind running over every flicker of Fifi's smile, every shadow of her thoughts that I had caught. She had wanted me gone not because she hated me personally, but because she wanted David. She believed his success, his name, his wealth, even his mother's approval should be hers. She wanted the life that came with him, not the man himself. And that was the difference. Because I had thought once that marrying David was fortune. Now I understood, David was not the fortune. He was the man who peeled an apple in one long curl, who stayed awake all night to watch my IV drip, who celebrated every small word of praise like it was a medal. And I loved him for that. The following morning was the board meeting. David prepared with his usual precision, suit pressed, hair combed back. But under his calm exterior, His thoughts were furious with purpose. Show them strength. Show them stability. Then cut the wrath. Do not give her a chance. I will expose her at the right moment. I insisted on going with him. The doctor had said rest, but I could not let him face this storm alone. David tried to refuse at first, his mind shouting, "No, stay safe, let me protect you." But when he saw my resolve, he softened. "She wants you gone. Seeing you alive and beside me is the greatest defeat." We entered the boardroom together. Murmurs swept the table. David seated me near the head, his hands steady at my back. Fifi was already there, dressed elegantly, pearls shining at her throat. Her eyes widened when she saw me walking in on David's arm, alive, composed, not broken. Her thoughts flashed sharp with panic. She should still be in bed. Why is she here? No, smile. Pretend. The meeting began. Reports were read. Numbers discussed. Through it all, David remained impassive, but in his mind I heard every detail he marked for later. Corrupt allocation. Inflated expense. Shareholder rumor. Finally, near the end, he stood. "There is one more matter," he said, voice steady. 3 weeks ago my wife was in a car accident. At first we thought it was chance. It was not. Evidence has surfaced. Someone hired a driver to cause fear and harm. That someone was close to this family. Gasps rippled. Fifi paled. She opened her mouth, but David raised his hand. "Do not speak yet." He held up the envelope Chen had left, sealed in a clear evidence bag. "This has fingerprints. And there are witnesses. The police will take it from here." The room fell silent. Fifi's thoughts screamed. "No. Not like this. They will ruin me. He cannot do this. I deserve it more. I was chosen first. I am the one who should stand at his side. How can it be her? Just a secretary. Just luck." But David's voice was like stone. "Luck did not marry us. Love did. And loyalty keeps us. Anyone who threatens my wife threatens me. And I will not tolerate betrayal." Fifi's composure cracked. Tears sprang to her eyes, her voice rising shrill. "I only wanted to help. I was trying to protect you from a weak woman who would drag you down." Her words cut short as security entered, summoned by my mother-in-law, who stood at the door like a general. She looked at her friend's daughter with cold eyes. "Take her away. She has no place here." In her mind was a line of regret and resolve. I should have stopped this sooner. Never again. The police came later to take Fifi into custody. Chen gave his statement. The fingerprints matched. The evidence was clear. It spread in whispers across the company like wildfire. The young woman who smiled too sweetly was behind the accident, and the president had chosen his wife without hesitation. Days later, when peace finally settled again, David and I sat in the garden at dusk. My leg was healing, the crutches awkward but manageable. He poured tea for me, his fingers steady now. His thoughts were calmer, softer, but still full of me. Does she need a cushion? Is the tea too hot? Should I add honey? Will she laugh at me for asking? I smiled and took his hand. I can hear all of it, you know. He laughed, a sound I had rarely heard from him. Then you know too much. I know just enough, I said. I know you love me. I know you worry too much. And I know you will always peel my apples in one long curl. He flushed, his thoughts dancing with joy. She remembers. She likes it. I will peel 1,000 apples if she asks. I leaned against his shoulder, the garden lights flickering on, the air scented with jasmine. For the first time since the accident, I felt whole again. I had married him thinking it was a bargain, a cliché, a fortunate accident. But the real accident was discovering his heart by chance. And that discovery saved me more than any medicine. David pressed a kiss to my temple. In his mind the words rang clear and steady. My wife. My partner. My love. Forever. And this time, I did not need to hear his thoughts to believe them. I already knew.